China's still growing. It's a large economy, there is strong demand for iron ore, and there's constrained supply. There's not a lot of new supply of iron ore coming to the market. So our proximity to China, the short seaborne journey, means that China will have strong demand for West Australia's iron ore for a long time to come.
There are, of course, ongoing tensions in the Pacific. Does that concern you, though?
Well, I think all of us are concerned about the ongoing tensions, and I know that the recently appointed Albanese government is calling for restraint, and I think we would agree with that. Exports of iron ore in the 12 months ended June 21 were over $130 billion. The contribution that is made to the Australian economy is significant.
Of course, we're seeing movement in West Africa. FMG also itself is exploring in the area. Do you see that potentially unseating Australia as the dominant producer of iron ore?
Every day that we're mining, we're depleting our existing resources, so we're taking a long-term view of actually supplementing and growing our iron ore business. So I don't see it necessarily as a threat to the West Australian iron ore industry. I just see that as part of the long-term supply of iron ore to a world that is continuing to grow. And we look at the green energy revolution, and green energy also needs steel. The one core ingredient that remains is steel, whether that's for wind turbines or other equipment that supports decarbonisation. So there'll be strong ongoing demand for iron ore.
We are sitting in the Fortescue Future Industries, the future, I guess, here where a lot of technology is being developed. Why is this transition of the company been so important for you?
Well, the climate crisis is the biggest issue facing all of us. So we're actually doing what Fortescue's always done. We're taking a very practical approach, and that's why we're sitting here today with all the work that's underway here to develop those technologies that will support our decarbonisation. And we think that is not only the right thing to do for our environment, but it's actually the smart thing to do, and it will create enormous value for our shareholders.
An issue that you've also spoken a lot about throughout your career is women in the sector. And of course, we've had the review here in Western Australia. Your peer, BHP, recently revealed that they'd had about 200 reports of sexual assault within its organisation in the last year. Are you seeing similar numbers at FMG?
We actually haven't seen significant numbers of, I guess, assaults, physical interactions, but we are pleasingly actually seeing more people call out behaviour that would constitute sexual harassment. It might be an inappropriate joke. It might be the use of language that's not aligned with our values. So we've seen an increase in reporting, but not of that nature. More of people actually being very aware of the behaviours that are appropriate in the workplace, and we're encouraging people to speak up. But as an industry, I think the last 12 months, it's been very confronting. It's confronting to hear about an industry that we know and love, that's such a significant contributor to Western Australia and the Australian economy, but that harassment and bullying has no place in any workplace, not just in the mining industry, but in any workplace.
When you were appointed the CEO of FMG, I remember reading comments from you about how there were so many questions about your gender and why is it an issue? Unfortunately, it still is. We were both at the Diggers and Dealers Mining Conference, and you yet again pointed out the number of people called Peter and John, I think it was, compared to women, only 5 female speakers. You must be frustrated that this is still an issue. I
am frustrated. It's corporate Australia. This isn't the mining sector. Corporate Australia, the fact that a woman appointed as the CEO of an ASX listed company is such a big talking point, as opposed to that being part of an important appointment, but not because of the person's gender. At this rate, it'll be 80 years before we have equal representation of women as CEOs on ASX listed companies, and that's just simply too long. And we have to get the settings in place that support women having fulfilling careers in any industry and all the way through to the C-suite positions, and not feel as though they get to a certain point and they can't progress any further.
What do you think will be going through your mind as you pack up your computer, walk out of the office, turn the lights off on that final day?
Well, for me, I'm very fortunate because I started my journey with Fortescue on the board as a non-executive director nearly 10 years ago, and I'm going to stay on the board. So I'm sort of half turning the lights off, I suppose. And I certainly, I love working with the people at Fortescue. It's the people that make it such a fantastic business. Yes, we've got great assets, we've got great infrastructure, but it's the people. And when I go to the Pilbara particularly and I see all the people working across Fortescue, I mean, that's just, to me, is so uplifting, and I love going there. So as a non-executive director, I'll try to still find ways that I can interact with the team, but being able to still contribute to the strategy of Fortescue for me is a real privilege, so I'm feeling very fortunate.
Elizabeth, it's been a real privilege to speak to you in your final days as CEO of FMG. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.